out of the way, let's continue to talk about the Kings here, Ramie. And yesterday we had this conversation about how this could set up to be a very fascinating trading deadline. If you continue to win some basketball games, you get close to the deadline, and you're either 500 or hovering just above 500, maybe even one or two games under 500, and you're getting closer to the deadline. It's going to be a pretty difficult decision and challenge for Monte McNair to make sure that he makes the right move, because his team's got a very good vibe right now, and everybody's feeling good about each other. Everybody kind of fits, and when you remove somebody from the equation and bring somebody from the quote-unquote outside in, that could mess a little bit with the chemistry. So a very fascinating deadline if the Kings continue to play this kind of basketball. And it's with that in mind that we look at Shams Charania. Shams had an article today at The Athletic about some of the names that are surfacing already here in the NBA trade circles and conversations, okay? And I think both you and I said yesterday that Harrison Barnes is, to us, we like him. Seems like a great guy. He's done some good things over the past couple of weeks. He's improved from his very slow start, but he's one of the guys that I think would be on the table and expendable. So
that makes sense.
Yes. Here's what Shams wrote. The Hawks have opened up preliminary trade discussions around John Collins. I don't know how you can have preliminary trade discussions when the dude's been talked about for 3 years. I digress. Interested teams inquire. The Hawks don't have an imminent deal in place involving Collins. Those sources say, and executives around the league believe a potential deal will be weeks and potentially months in the making ahead of that February 9th trade deadline. Shams mentions the Suns being involved with these conversations. Our friend down in Phoenix, who's very plugged in, John Gambadoro, disagreed with that on Twitter today. Gambadoro said that the Suns are not interested in John Collins. So that leads me to the John Collins talk and conversation and debate here, Ramie, because could this be a three-way deal? Maybe the Suns are in the conversation with the Hawks, but they don't want Collins. They want somebody else. And it's interesting because Shams writes that, the Suns have had a handful of first-rounders to move, given the team's impending ownership change, uncertain how many future assets will be handled. In addition, Shams writes, the Suns expressed interest in forwards such as Sacramento's Harrison Barnes. Now, I wonder, you've got the Hawks and Suns talking. John Gambadoro says the Suns are not interested in Collins. Shams brings up the idea of, hey, look, the Suns like Harrison Barnes. He also mentions Kyle Kuzma and KJ Martin of Houston. Kind of putting both things together here, I wonder if there's a three-way trade that's workable between the Suns, Hawks, and Kings. And I wonder, Ramie, if it's you, do you get in on John Collins if it costs you, say, Harrison Barnes and a draft pick?
Yeah, I think I do. And I know that you're worried about messing with chemistry and what they got going right now. They kept Harrison Barnes around for one of two reasons or some combination of these two reasons. They didn't get what they wanted for him on the market when he was reportedly being shopped around, or at least they were open to listening to offers for him, or they thought, hey, this guy's veteran presence and experience in this league and knowing what it takes to win in this league and be prepared on a night in, night out basis is worth it with what we're trying to build. If it's the second one, Nick, then maybe you have to take pause before you make a deal like that. But if we're just talking about the basketball of it, and you can get John Collins, and you're in win now mode, which they are, he's the better player. He brings more to the table for this team, and brings to the table for this team exactly what they need from the front court and from their 4 and 5 spots. I don't know why you wouldn't make this move unless you're really, really worried that Harrison Barnes and his veteran presence is that important to the chemistry that this team has going right now.
I'd be in on Collins. And look, I don't know him personally. I don't know if he would have a problem being the third or fourth option. We've heard some of that he believes that he's more of a second option, if not first option. Would he have issue coming onto a team where he's got to kind of battle Fox and Sabonis for touches along with Herter? I don't know. But if I was given the indication that Collins would be open to coming over to Sacramento and would not ruffle feathers, so to speak, I'd be 100% in on him. We talked about this earlier in the week, Ramie. Domas, him at his best is when he has somebody who has that athletic profile at the four and can give you a little bit of rim protection. I'm not telling you that Collins is Miles Turner. I'm not telling you he's going to block 4 or 5 shots a night. But when you look at Collins, his athletic profile does fit alongside Domas very, very well. You've got kind of the springy, athletic, rim running, rim protecting, four who could slide right next to Domas and create that really good fit down in the paint. And that's needed. I mean, I think the rim protection, I know we talked to Frankie Cardicelli last hour. He mentioned about Metu being able to protect a little bit in rim run. Look, I'd rather have Collins than Chimezie Metu, with all due respect to Chimezie Metu. And I think, that rim protection, that level of rim protection is important for this team. The other part of it, Ramie, if I'm putting somebody who's going to play the 4 next to Domas, I've got to make sure that guy can knock down some shots. And I know that Collins, his three-point shooting is way down this year. It's below 30%, but this guy is a career 37% three-point shooter. I think he has the ability to stretch the floor. I would be all in on him. And he's 25 years old. So, I mean, when you look at the timeline of this team, he fits perfectly, Ramie, with Fox and Domas and these other guys smack dab in the middle of his 20s.
And I don't know that you're gonna run into anybody who's a better fit for all the reasons that we've been talking about between now and the trade deadline. So I don't see any reason why you need to wait to try and improve this team when if you're serious about contending, every team that's serious about contending between now and the trade deadline, a lot of them will be right up against a trade deadline, but every team that's serious about contending between now and the trade deadline is going to make some kind of move to bolster their roster. I don't know that you'll find a better fit for the Kings and what they need than John Collins.
I also like the idea that the fact that he's under contractual control. He's got a player option in 2025, 2026. Harrison Barnes, this is the final year of his deal. So HB could easily move on once this year is over. Do you want to replace him with somebody who's here for the next 3-4 years and fits alongside Domas? And again, is a couple of years before his prime. You usually hit your prime about 27, 28 years old. Collins is only 25. And some of the numbers we see in Atlanta this year, I do think it has to do with what Atlanta's doing offensively. I just watched them on Wednesday night, and DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, they have the basketball a lot in their hands. They've got the 2 all-star guards. They're running the team through their guards. That offense is not this Kings offense with all the touches and the ball movement and man movement.
Yep.
It's a lot of Trae Young. It's a lot of DeJounte Murray. And I think Collins would be a better fit here with the Kings than he is in Atlanta with the Hawks with what they're doing. We want your thoughts on this. Would you be in on Collins if it meant you're sending HB and a pick to Atlanta in some kind of 3-way deal with the Suns? Again, 916-339-1140 is the text line. You can call us toll-free, 1-800-920-1140. Would you be in on John Collins? Don't forget, youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140. We've got a lot of nicknames to run through